This is the BYD Seal 7, one of BYD's flagship electric vehicles that's been around in South Africa for just under a year. Let's take a look around. The BYD Seal 7 has 230 kilowatts of power and 360 Newton meters of torque. It's driven by a rear-wheel drive permanent magnet synchronous motor and can go from 0 to 100 in 5.9 seconds. The Seal 7 has a battery capacity of 82 kilowatt hours and a WLTP range of 570 kilometers. So EVs come in two variants in terms of electric architecture. Most of the vehicles are 400 volt electric architectures, and some of the newer ones like the Seal are 800 volts, which means it can charge at DC speeds up to 150 kilowatts and an AC charge speed of 11 kilowatts. So last year in October, a group of us did a 2,300 kilometer EV road trip from Johannesburg to Gqeberha all the way down to Cape Town. And we went over the Swartberg Pass. Now here's a fun fact. This specific BYD Seal 7, not the model, but this specific vehicle is one of the vehicles that we took on that road trip. So this vehicle itself has been over the Swartberg Pass without any issues. If you'd like to have a look at that video and watch the adventure, click on the link at the top of the screen and enjoy the show. It was a fantastic road trip. So in that road trip video, you will see a moment where we actually had a compatibility issue between the Seal 7 and some of the older DC charging infrastructure in terms of handshaking and compatibility. We had to use a slow charger to charge the Seal 7 while we were waiting for the issue to be resolved between the charger and the vehicle, which is not a fault of the vehicle. It's just one of the teething issues that we're going to go through as the charging infrastructure gets upgraded and evolves to handle the higher voltage architectures of the latest EVs coming into South Africa. So I'm about to leave Midrand right now, and we're going to do a road trip to Dullstroom, 250 kilometers away, around a 2.5 hour drive. So we are going to stop at the Alzu DC charge station just to do a compatibility check and make sure that the charging architecture actually handshakes with each other. I don't expect any issues because that station is 950 volts and this is an 800 volt car, which means that it should be well within the range. And in any case, these vehicles and the DC charge stations should be able to find a common voltage that they would like to connect to make the charge station actually work. Okay, so we're good to go. I've got the vehicle charged to 90%. It's showing me a range remaining of 511 kilometers. So more than enough range to get well beyond the first charging station and even all the way to Dullstroom without a problem. As we go along the way, I'll keep you updated in terms of the consumption and how the range is looking. See you on the road. Okay, we've just arrived at the Alzu Petropoort stop where there's an 80 kilowatt DC charger behind me. 950 volts, so it should be fine for the car. I'm about to test it now. I've done 182 kilometers so far, and I'm at 49% state of charge. So from here to Dullstroom is another hour's drive and about 70 kilometers. So I've got plenty of range still to get there without even charging. But ideally, I want to make sure that if I needed to get there and back, and perhaps there was a problem with the charger in Dullstroom, I should have at least 150 kilometers of range left. But I'm going to top up now for about 10 minutes, just because we're here for 10 minutes, and you should always be charging when you have the opportunity. And let's see how the DC charge goes. Okay, so we are getting up to 665 volts in terms of the pre-test. And now the charge session should start. And here we go, pre-charging 250 volts, 260, 430, 460. Fault, pilot level. All right, this is interesting. We actually have a fault here. Getting the exact same issue that we experienced in Janssenville last year, which is that there's a handshake issue still between the Seal 7 and this DC charger. It's giving me this pilot fault error, which we had at Janssenville. So it seems like this handshaking issue still isn't resolved. Okay, on the second attempt now, it is charging at a voltage of 588 volts and a current of 57 amps. And that's actually giving me a power of 70 kilowatt charging speed, 51%, with a remaining time of 50 minutes to get to 100%. Fortunately, the handshake worked, and we're now charging at a speed of around 70 kilowatts, close to the maximum of around 80 kilowatts that this charger can offer. But super happy that this actually is now charging, but it shouldn't take more than one attempt to really get this to charge. So happy that this is now charging, and I can take a 10-minute break. Okay, I just finished this quick DC charge out. Literally took about 10 minutes, added 10 kilowatt hours. I've gone from around 49% state of charge up to around 61%, added 10 kilowatt hours of energy at a cost of around 78 Rand, and I've added around 80 kilometers of range. Rough calculation, again, 1 Rand per kilometer. Remember, this is the DC charger, so the most expensive public rate that you can get, around 7 Rand 35 per kilowatt hour. So even at the most expensive rate, still cheaper than fuel. Plenty of range. Got around 70 k's to get to Dullstroom now. It will take us about an hour, and I'm going to do an AC charge when we get there. But plenty of range left to get all the way to Dullstroom and all the way back to Johannesburg. So see you on the road. Okay, arrived safely in Dullstroom at a state of charge of 44%, total trip distance around 248 kilometers, and I've got about 240 kilometers remaining range. So not enough to get all the way back directly to Midrand without recharging, but there's an AC charger down the main road of Dullstroom, which I will be charging at, probably not needing to put in more than perhaps 20 kilowatt hours, just to put in about another 100 kilometers of range in. That shouldn't take more than maybe an hour and a half or so to do that charge. So perfect use case for an AC charger, just to park your car for an hour and a half, take a walk around the town, etc., while the car charges. So overall, a very smooth drive in this Seal 7. Superb ADAS systems. I let the car drive for me, put it into intelligent cruise control mode, the RCC mode that BYD has. Lane keeping working, and accelerating and braking all working perfectly. All right, so I've just wrapped up the AC charging session here in Dullstroom at the AC charger, the GridCars 22 kilowatt station. I charged for an hour and 45 minutes. I added 19.3 kilowatt hours of energy, and the total cost of that was 113 Rand. That 19.3 kilowatt hours has effectively given me about 120, 130 Ks of of range. I've now gone up to a state of charge of 66%, and I have a remaining range of 357 kilometers, which is more than sufficient to get me way back to Midrand tomorrow without any need to stop or charge or top up anywhere. So all good to go. That was actually quite easy, and just shows you again the importance of having destination chargers at places like this. I mean, Dullstroom has got an AC charger. We probably need 2 or 3 more at various hotels and along the main road. That'll be ideally what we want to see in future. But so far, this was actually quite great and no problem. We are at the Highlander Hotel in Dullstroom. We'll be staying overnight while we're here. And as it turns out, there's a complimentary AC EV charger at the hotel, which is a great bonus. Didn't know that it actually existed. Doesn't appear on any map. Doesn't even appear on the hotel website. So I think that's the kind of information that would be a great addition to B&Bs and destinations to advertise the fact that you've got an AC charger. Anyway, I've got the BYD Seal 7 plugged into the charger. It's actually a 7 kilowatt wall charger. I started charging it at around 16 amps, and when it hit 5.5 kilowatts, it held for about 10 seconds and then it tripped out. So for some reason, the circuitry isn't really correctly wired, I think, to handle the full 7 kilowatts or the 5.5 kilowatts that the car was drawing. So I've dialed down the amp limit to 10 amps, and I've started the charge again, and now it's holding. However, the speed has dropped down to around 2 kilowatts overall. So it's going to be a very slow charge, but again, it's going to be a sort of a trickle charge that I'll leave the car here for the next 6 or 7 hours to charge. And again, a complimentary service provided by the hotel, and it's the kind of thing that you really want to have added. Day 2 here in Dullstroom at the Highlander Hotel, and I've had the BYD Seal charging overnight while we were here. This was a trickle charge at around 2 kilowatts for that duration. I went from 66% to 100% and added around 27 kilowatt hours overnight into the car. That 27 kilowatt hours is about 180 kilometers of range, meaning the first 180 kilometers of driving is going to be absolutely free. So when it comes down to doing the final calculations on a cost per kilometer basis, you're going to see that factor in quite heavily. No need to worry about the stop to charge on the way back. Not that I would have needed one anyway, but I've now got 544 kilometers of range. So all good to go, and I'll give you an update on the road. Have been driving now for just under 2 hours, leaving Dullstroom a couple of hours ago. I've now reached a state of charge of 66% on the battery, and we've done around about 185 kilometers since leaving. So it was exactly as I predicted. That free charge that we got yesterday overnight at the Highlander Hotel has given us 185 kilometers of free driving range. So it's only now that I'm now reaching that 66% charge that I'd started at charging yesterday at the hotel. If you take that 185 k's odd that we have just driven and you convert that to what it would have cost if we were driving a petrol vehicle, that would have maybe cost me around 280 Rand in terms of fuel. So overnight, this is the beauty of having an EV, in that the hotel gave me that value. I mean, it wouldn't have cost the hotel more than maybe 60 to 70 Rand to give me those 25 kilowatt hours. And that was a value add that the hotel gave me. But I've used that now to my benefit, 185 k's of free driving range, and only now am I now starting to use the additional range that I needed. A great drive so far. The Seal has been exceptional to drive. Really enjoyed the smoothness of it. The overtaking capability of this vehicle is just fantastic as well. but if you just let the car do the driving for you, it's really a very comfortable drive. So we've got about another 60 k's to go, 45 minutes to get back to Midrand. This is just too easy to drive an EV at a long distance like this. If you know how to do it and you know where to charge and you use it smartly, it really does make a lot of sense. So yeah, really enjoying the drive, and I'll check in when I get to Midrand. Okay, just made it back now to Midrand after the trip to Dullstroom. What an absolutely superb drive in the BYD Seal 7. A super smooth drive, no issues at all in terms of consumption or range anxiety. In fact, the extended range Seal has got such an excellent range, and it is so accurate that range anxiety isn't even a term that crosses your mind in driving an EV like this. In fact, it was too easy. I tried to make it a challenge, but indeed difficult to do that. The total distance that I drove there and back, 491 kilometers, and I used a total of 86 kilowatt hours. Now let me break down the numbers in terms of the outbound trip and the inbound trip. So the trip from Midrand to Dullstroom is 248 kilometers in total, and for that I used a total of 47 kilowatt hours of energy. Now to get there, I had to preload and pre-charge the car at around 3 Rand per kilowatt hour from Eskom. So the total cost for driving there, 142 Rand. You take that 142 Rand divided by the 248 kilometers and you get a cost per kilometer of 57 cents. Now when I arrived in Dullstroom, I took the Seal and put it on the Grid Car's AC charger in the main road there. I arrived with a state of charge of 44%, and I charged there for about an hour and 3/4 and went from 44% to 66%. That gave me a remaining range of around about 350 odd kilometers, if I recall, which was more than sufficient to get back home again today. But as it turned out, like I explained, when we got to the hotel had a free AC charger to connect to. And when I put the Seal on charge there, I was able to charge from 66% up to 100% overnight. And that gave me an extra 27.9 kilowatt hours of free energy, compliments of the hotel. That added just over 180 kilometers of free range for me to use on the way back. It just shows how great it can be when hotels and B&Bs and destinations start offering complimentary EV charging services for overnight stays, because the gain you get on the following day's trip is just fantastic. So now for the inbound trip from Dullstroom back to Midrand, the total distance, 243 kilometers, and I used a total energy there of 38.5 kilowatt hours. Now here's the thing, 27.9 kilowatt hours were free from the overnight charge at the hotel. So I only ended up effectively paying for 10.6 kilowatt hours of that total leg of the trip. That 10.6 kilowatt hours multiplied by 5 Rand 88 per kilowatt hour, which was the rate at the public AC charger, comes to a cost of 62 Rand 33. Now you take that 62 Rand 33 divided by the 243 kilometers, and you have a cost per kilometer of just 26 cents, which is incredible. Looking at the overall trip, combined there and back, the cost per kilometer for the entire trip, 42 cents per kilometer. Again, just showing you the cost savings that you can get in terms of traveling in an EV. So just summing up my views of the BYD Seal 7 after I've driven it a couple of days and after the road trip to Dullstroom and back, found it to be a fantastic piece of technology. I have to call it a piece of technology because the design of this vehicle is next level. Baseline electric architecture at 800 volts allows for super fast charging up to 150 kilowatts, potentially beyond with software upgrades and the like. The ADAS systems really make this a very easy, comfortable drive on a road trip. A little bit niggly in terms of setting specific speeds. You've got to be a little bit precise with your keys on the steering wheel. But once you get used to it, it works really well, able to keep the lanes, able to drive itself, slow down, accelerate, all by itself, very, very functional. Performance-wise, the acceleration that this inherently has in the power of the synchronous motor on the rear-wheel drive for overtaking is incredible. In fact, the car actually detects when you start overtaking. It says overtaking acceleration, and it allows you to kind of go above the intelligent cruise control for that moment to do the overtake. You can use various sport modes, so you're basically selecting between normal, eco, and sport. When you drop it into sport, screen goes red, and it really gets quite cross and really wants to drive with you. Fun to drive overall, and super quiet as well. Sound system, overall, the Dun audio system works really well. Tested that out with some great tunes and fantastic. And you know, these cars, specifically some of the BYDs, have got the overall panoramic glass roof. And I didn't find that to be intrusive in any way in terms of the sun or the heat coming through. I think what BYD are doing in South Africa is absolutely fantastic in terms of positioning electric vehicles and e-mobility as a viable option for South Africans. It started with the BYD Seal and the BYD Atto 3. Last year, we saw the introduction of the BYD Dolphin. We saw the introduction of the BYD Shark 6 plug-in hybrid earlier this year. And imminently will be the introduction of the BYD Dolphin Surf. It's named various monikers in various markets. You might have known of it as the BYD Seagull or the Atto 1 or the Dolphin Mini. But in South Africa, I believe it will be called the Dolphin Surf. And at the right price point, I think that will really make e-mobility and electric vehicles accessible for many people. They're sort of hatchback class choices. But overall, from a vehicle perspective, there's no doubt at all as to why BYD are doing so well globally. The technology that they're actually researching and bringing to the market, particularly in batteries and energy storage, is excellent, if not the best in the world. So overall, great to have driven this car and great to see BYD continuously going from strength to strength. Thanks for watching this video. Really hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, appreciate if you would like the video and even subscribe and forward it on. Helps me to do more of these videos, and it's really fun doing them. Hopefully interesting and educational. See you in the next one.